Privacy and practice in whole genome sequencing. Based on the Presidential Commission for the Study of Bioethical Issues. First of all, I thought it was important that we tried to figure out what is whole genome sequencing. The World Health Organization defines genetics as the study of heredity. Genetics is the study of the effect that single genes have on hereditary traits between generations. Genes hold information of a genetic message in a string of chemicals called bases. The sequence of bases determine the genetic message for making proteins which direct cells and functions of the body. We have thousands of genes packed into 23 pairs of chromosomes. Now, according to the World Health Organization, genomics is the study of genes and their functions. Genomics studies the 23 pairs of chromosomes with all the genes plus all of the sequences and the information therein, called a genome. Genomics includes how genes within the genome interact with each other and with a person's environment. Let's try to rephrase the differences. According to the World Health Organization, genetic studies of the function and the makeup of a single gene. Genetic tests study single pieces of genetic information in DNA with a known function, enabling scientists to isolate specific genetic variants. For example, the 23andMe genetic testing product can test for biological markers, locating genes associated with a disease. Genomics studies all genes and their interrelationships to assess the influence on the growth and development of an organism. Genomic testing studies large sections of genetic material for a broad spectrum of information. Examples of disorders revealed by genetic testing are such as hemophilia, Down syndrome, and sickle cell disease. Examples of diseases caused by genetic and environmental factors rather than simply a single genetic defect found in genomic testing include asthma, cancer, diabetes, and heart disease. Additional information of interest that genomic testing may reveal are the predisposition to types of exercise, power endurance, thrombosis and blood clots, which are clotting factor mutations, and risks of arthritis in various joints. Whole genome sequencing and developing pharmacogenomics help compare variability in drug response due to genetic code. How an individual's body metabolizes hundreds of drugs can be assessed, which likely cause side effects. This was a website article that I found that was written in layman's terms. It was an easy read, one of the more enjoyable reads on this subject that kind of encompassed everything that the commission wants to talk about. The lady had her genomic test done. She had counseling. She voiced her concerns and talked about what she had learned. Well, a little more about pharmacogenomics. Pharmacogenomics has promising implications for cancer therapy. Previously, testing assessed prognosis and likelihood of response to treatments. More recently, mutations found in hundreds of genes may indicate sensitivity or resistance to oncology drugs. There's been a push by organizations and foundations for comprehensive genomic testing availability to all U.S. cancer patients. This information matches patients to medicines that target their exact cancer form and is potentially life-saving. This would be a crucial study of biochemical issues. Here's a bit of data that I learned about how the costs have changed for the whole genome sequencing. The initial whole human genome sequencing cost about $2.7 billion in 2003. Just 3 years later, by 2006, the cost had decreased to $300,000 per person for an individual. And by 2016, the cost had decreased to $1,000. So isn't that something? The cost of sequencing was reduced by a factor of 1 million in roughly 10 years. With the price dropping below $1,000, it seems inevitable that costs will rival common home genetic tests such as Ancestry DNA, 23andMe, Family Tree DNA, etc. As the title from the Presidential Commission suggests, this report focuses on privacy. Privacy for those whose genomes have been sequenced, as well as relatives' privacy whose genome information may be indicated without consent. To improve privacy, this report also focuses on unauthorized access to and misuse of data. This report aims to maximize anticipated public benefit from home genome sequencing while minimizing potential privacy risks to individuals. So we can see there's somewhat of a balance between individual sacrifice and society benefit. This report states that current governance is ill-suited to cover all facets of privacy protection. Weighing the benefits to society with developing genome sequencing data versus privacy protection inspires the suggestions of this report. Referencing the Belmont report, the healthcare ethics of principalism were established, which have focused on individual protections of patient rights and privacy. Those rights being autonomy, non-malfeasance, beneficence, and justice. We can compare and see an integration of principalism and the ethical principles proposed for the public health and society benefit. Public beneficence, responsible stewardship, intellectual freedom and responsibility, democratic deliberation, and fairness and justice. There is little controversy with healthcare ethics principalism. However, when mixing public benefit with individuals' privacy, we see a scale of conflicting ideas. Current U.S. laws don't adequately cover individuals, which is to say, no comprehensive law protects genetic privacy. HIPAA is an acronym for the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. HIPAA is the federal law most pertinent to medical privacy. GINA is the Genetic Information Non-Discrimination Act. And GINA is the federal law protecting against health insurance and employment discrimination. Fortunately, according to this report, there have currently been very few cases. Here are some problems, and most seem to be a lack of consistency or a lack of a comprehensive umbrella policy protecting the privacy of individuals. State laws vary on individuals' protections with regards to genetic information. There have been some protections that exist for DNA and genetic testing per se, but not genomic testing. While GINA provides protections against discrimination from employers or insurance companies, it only applies to asymptomatic persons. Currently, another organization, the Health and Human Services, has not clarified whether genomic information on its own falls under HIPAA protections. And HIPAA only covers medical or clinical privacy, not research. So research patients aren't protected. To improve and increase public benefit, they need a big study group. So individuals must feel comfortable and confident in the process of genomic sequencing. This report establishes a comprehensive guideline to improve such confidence in order to facilitate public benefit with increased participation. And I think the report's very thorough. Kind of a reiteration, fear of insurance denial and employment discrimination have been the biggest concerns voiced by individuals. And understandable informed consent is frequently one of the greatest additional concerns, as the genomic concept can be hard to grasp. And to reiterate, the Presidential Commission is optimistic that this report comprehensively covers all necessary guidelines for the collection of quantities of genomic data for public benefit. Other thoughts about this paper. Ethically, it's been found that the misuse of information has caused more harm than simple unauthorized access. The Commission recommends additional guidelines to govern the quality and oversight of performing laboratories. Guidelines such as those by CLIA. The Commission also recommends adequate result counseling. It's been seen with social media in the US that society has become more open to sharing health information, e.g., online communities such as the Courtney Project. Thanks. I hope my presentation isn't too monotone and it works out. And once again, if you'd like to take a look at bibliography entry number 4, it was written in lay terms and it's not a bad read.